The night the rain turned cyan. Ryuji walked into his apartment and found his wife dead on the bedroom floor. She'd been alive 20 minutes ago. Now she had a glowing tattoo on her neck that wasn't there this morning, and someone in tactical gear was standing behind him with a gun pointed at the back of his head. That was Tuesday. 14 minutes earlier, Ryuji was walking home from work. District 7, the armpit of the city, a place where the rain never stopped and the police never came. He'd lived here his entire life. Knew every broken street lamp, every flooded alley, every dealer on every corner. He was nobody, and he was fine with that. The lock was broken, the door was open, and the apartment that had always smelled like ginger and green tea now smelled like nothing at all. A cup of tea lay shattered on the kitchen floor, still steaming. She'd been here minutes ago, maybe seconds. "Hana?" he called. Nothing. The tea was still warm. The steam curled into the dark air like a question no one would answer. She had been here minutes ago, maybe seconds. Hana? Still nothing. Now a quick thing about Ryuji. He was nobody, and I mean that literally. He was a D-rank engraver, the lowest of the low, with a tattoo so useless that his own employer didn't bother cataloging it. All it did was tell him when someone was lying. Great for poker, useless for everything else. He worked for the Shinra group as a cleaner. Not a hitman, a cleaner. He mopped blood off floors after real engravers finished their missions. He filed reports no one read. He was furniture with a pulse, and he was fine with that. Because at the end of every terrible day, he came home to her. She lay on the hardwood like someone had carefully placed her there. No blood, no bruises, no sign that anything violent had happened at all, except she wasn't breathing, and there was a tattoo on her right arm that hadn't been there this morning. Ryuji dropped to his knees, grabbed her shoulders, shook her, called her name, called it again and again, each time louder, each time more desperate, each time more pointless. She was cold. The woman who hated tattoos, who cried when Ryuji got his, who called them devil's marks, had a glowing geometric pattern etched into her skin, cyan, pulsing, like a heartbeat that had stolen hers. Here's the thing about grief. It doesn't arrive all at once. First comes the confusion, then the denial, then the bargaining, the desperate, stupid hope that if you just shake her hard enough, she'll open her eyes and call you an idiot for worrying. That part lasts about 10 seconds, then comes the void. Ryuji's hand moved toward the tattoo. He didn't decide to touch it, something else did. A pull, a whisper in a language he didn't speak. The kind of instinct that comes from the part of your brain that existed before language, before logic, before you learned how to be afraid. He touched it. The world cracked open. Images slammed into his skull like a freight train, a woman he'd never seen. A room full of secrets, a shadow with red eyes, and a bullet flying straight at his head. Not a memory. A premonition, then silence. He came back to reality face down on the floor. His ears were ringing, his nose was bleeding, and his hand, his right hand, was glowing. A tattoo covered his palm. Intricate, beautiful, alien. It pulsed with the same cyan light as the one on Hana's right arm, as if something had leapt from her body into his. He didn't have time to understand it, because someone was standing behind him. The click of a gun being cocked is a very specific sound. It's small, mechanical, almost polite, like the universe clearing its throat before it kills you. "You weren't supposed to touch it," the man said. His voice was flat, bored even. "Now I have to kill you too." Too, that word, hit Ryuji harder than any bullet could, too. As in, I already killed her, you're just the second line item on tonight's to-do list. The assassin pulled the trigger, and Ryuji moved. Not because he decided to, not because he was trained. He moved the way a person pulls their hand from a hot stove before the brain even registers the heat. His body rolled left. The bullet punched a hole in the floor exactly where his head had been. The assassin's eyebrows went up behind the mask. That's the most polite way I can describe sheer professional disbelief. "The archive," the assassin whispered. "It already bonded?" The archive. Ryuji didn't know that word yet. He would. He'd learn to hate it. Right now, all he knew was this. He had seen the bullet before it was fired. Not guessed, seen, like watching a replay of something that hadn't happened yet. 2 seconds. That's how far ahead the vision went. 2 seconds of the future, playing in his mind like a movie trailer for his own death. 2 seconds doesn't sound like much, but when someone is trying to kill you, 2 seconds is an eternity. Second shot. Ryuji ducked right. The bullet kissed his ear. A thin line of blood. Nothing more. Third shot. He was already behind the dresser. The archive was showing him everything. Every twitch of the assassin's finger, every shift in his weight, every possible trajectory. It was like someone had handed him the answer key to a test written in gunpowder. Then the next vision came, clearer this time. The assassin would drop the empty gun, pull a knife from his right boot, step left, lunge right, stab upward. Ryuji watched the man's death before the man knew he was going to die. That's the thing about seeing the future. It doesn't make you brave, it just removes the surprise. The gun dropped. Hand went to the boot, knife came out, left foot shifted. Ryuji was already swinging. The bedside lamp connected with the assassin's temple. Not a dramatic cinematic swing, an ugly, desperate two-handed overhead slam that cracked the ceramic in the skull underneath it. The assassin hit the wall, slid down, blood soaked through the mask. Most people would have stopped there. Most people would have called someone, an ambulance, the police, a priest. Ryuji knelt down, grabbed the assassin's throat, and squeezed. "Who sent you?" The man laughed, wet, gurgling. The kind of laugh that comes with broken ribs and punctured pride. "You have no idea what you're carrying, do you? That tattoo is worth more than your life, more than hers." He nodded toward Hana. "There are lines you don't cross with a man who just lost everything." Nodding toward his dead wife's body while calling her worthless. "That's not crossing a line. That's setting the line on fire and dancing on the ashes." "I asked you a question," Ryuji said. His voice was quiet, the dangerous kind of quiet. The kind that comes right before the last sound you ever hear. "The Cognophage Collective," the assassin choked out. "They want the archive. They'll send more. They'll never stop." The assassin's eyes flickered cyan, then went dark. Just like that, dead. Whether from the head wound or something the archive did, Ryuji never found out, and honestly, he didn't care. "The Cognophage Collective, they'll never stop." He filed those words in the back of his mind, right next to the image of Hana's face, right next to the sound of her name, which he repeated to himself like a prayer he was already starting to forget. He sat beside her, held her hand. It was cold. He'd held that hand 1,000 times, walking through the market, watching movies on the couch, falling asleep in bed. It had always been warm. He didn't cry, he wanted to. But the part of him that knew how to cry was already dying. Being replaced by something harder, something that could see the future but couldn't change the past. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'll find them, every single one. And they're going to wish they'd never heard the word archive." That was a promise, and Ryuji didn't make promises he couldn't keep.
He just made ones that cost him everything.
The sirens came fast. Shinra Group's rapid response unit. They always showed up quickly when engravers were involved. Funny how that worked. A normal murder in District 7, response time, never. An engraver-related incident, 4 minutes flat. Armed agents flooded the apartment, guns pointed at Ryuji. The dead assassin. Hana's body, standard procedure. Secure everything. Ask questions later. Hands up. Don't move. Ryuji raised his hands. The glow was fading. He didn't resist. He had nothing left to resist with. Then she walked in. Agent Kale, sharp suit, cold eyes. The kind of face that had been beautiful once before the job, carved all the softness out of it. She looked at Hana's body for exactly 1 second. The dead assassin for 2. At Ryuji's fading glow for 3. "So," she said, "you're the new vessel. What did you call me?" "The archive chose you. That tattoo on your hand belonged to Naomi Shinra, the most powerful engraver who ever lived, and now it's yours." Ryuji looked at his hand. The glow had settled into a faint pattern beneath his skin, like veins, like circuitry, like something alive had crawled inside him and made itself at home. "I don't want it." Kale's lip twitched. Not quite a smile. "It doesn't care what you want. The collective killed your wife to extract it. They'll kill you next. Unless you come with me." "And do what?" "Shinra protects engravers. We hunt the collective. You help us, we help you survive." She paused. "And maybe you get to kill the people who did this." "Revenge." She said it like she was offering a coffee. Casual, transactional. But the word burned in his chest like someone had carved it there. He looked at Hana one last time, memorized her face, the way her hair fell across her cheek, the slight curve of her lips. He stored it deep in a place the archive couldn't reach, and at least that's what he hoped. "I'll come with you," he said, "but not to survive. I want to find the collective, and I want to kill every single one of them." Kale studied him. Whatever she saw in his face, she didn't argue with it. "Welcome to Shinra, Ryuji. Your training starts tomorrow." That was the night Ryuji died. Not physically. Physically. He walked out of that apartment, got into a black van, and rode in silence through the rain to a building he'd spend the next week trying to survive. But the man who loved his wife? The man who came home every night to ginger tea and a warm smile? Who was happy being nobody? That man was dead. What walked out of that apartment was something else. Something with glowing hands and a voice in its head and a list of names it hadn't learned yet. The collective had wanted the archive. They got something worse. They got Ryuji. Next time, Ryuji enters the world of real engravers. He learns what the archive actually is. He sees the file on the collective, 12 members, each one an S-rank killer, each one hungry for the tattoo under his skin. And he meets the face in that file. The one who held Hana down while she died. His name is Marcus. They call him the Harvester. He'll wish they hadn't. Welcome to Shinra. Shinra Group headquarters looked exactly like the kind of place that experiments on people and calls it research. A black tower of glass and steel that didn't welcome anyone. It tolerated them the way a lion tolerates a fly right up until it doesn't. 3 days after Hana died, Ryuji stood at its front doors wearing a new uniform. Black, fitted, no insignia. Just a single cyan line on the collar, the mark of a probationary agent. In Shinra's hierarchy, that was one step above. Person we haven't decided to kill yet. He hadn't slept in 3 days. The archive wouldn't let him. Every time he closed his eyes, it showed him things. Fragments of the future. A warehouse. A man with a red eye tattoo. A woman with dark hair watching from the shadows. Fragments of the past. Hana laughing, Hana cooking, Hana's hand in his. Those were worse because each time the memory replayed, it was a little softer, a little blurrier, like a photograph left in the rain. He pushed through the doors. Inside, Shinra HQ was a maze of white corridors and closed doors. The kind of building where everyone walked fast and nobody smiled. These people didn't have coworkers, they had assets, liabilities, threat levels, and now Ryuji was one of them. D-rank cleaner who had spent 3 years mopping blood off training room floors, suddenly walking the same halls as people who could melt steel with their fingertips. The irony wasn't lost on him, it just wasn't funny. Agent Kale stood at the end of the hall, same suit, same eyes that could cut glass. She was holding 2 cups of coffee and extending one toward him with the enthusiasm of someone handing over a parking ticket. "You're late," she said. "I'm here, that's all you asked for." "I asked for 0800, it's 0804 in Shinra. 4 minutes is the difference between completing a mission and burying an agent." She turned and walked. Ryuji followed. That was how it worked with Kale. She moved, you kept up, or you got left behind. They passed a training room. Through the reinforced glass, 2 engravers were sparring. One threw arcs of blue fire, actual fire, from his palms, like it was nothing. The other deflected with a shield of hardened air that rippled like a heat mirage. Ryuji stopped walking. He'd worked at Shinra for 3 years. He'd heard the sounds of training through the walls, but he'd never actually seen real engravers fight. It was terrifying and beautiful. The way a thunderstorm is beautiful right up until the lightning hits you. "Don't stare," Kale said without stopping. "They don't like it, and the fire guy has a temper." They stopped at a door marked with a biohazard symbol. Kale pressed her palm to a scanner. The door hissed. Inside was the smallest room Ryuji had ever seen at Shinra. A table, 2 chairs, a single file. "Sit," Kale said. He sat. She pushed the file toward him like she was pushing a loaded gun. "This is what killed your wife." The Cognophage Collective, 12 members, each one an S-rank engraver. The highest classification Shinra had, to put that in perspective. The 2 engravers sparring in the training room? B rank. The gap between B and S wasn't a step, it was a canyon. These were the people who killed Hana. These were the people Ryuji was going to destroy. He flipped through the pages, each one worse than the last, bodies with tattoos torn from their skin, not removed, surgically ripped, like pulling a weed from wet soil. Survivors with empty eyes. People who couldn't remember their own names, their own children, their own faces in a mirror. "The collective doesn't kill for money," Kale said. "They kill for knowledge. They steal engraver abilities by extracting the tattoo and the memories bound to it. They call it harvesting. They called it harvesting. What a clean word for ripping someone's soul out through their skin. The tattoo you carry," Kale continued, "is called the Archive. It was created by Naomi Shinra, the boss's daughter. It's not just a combat tattoo, it's a living database. Every person it's bonded to, every memory they carried, every piece of knowledge they ever encountered. It's all in there, stored, indexed, accessible. That's why I can see the future," Ryuji said. "That's why you can see 2 seconds of the future. Naomi could see minutes, hours on a good day. The archive grows with its vessel right now. You're a novice using a supercomputer as a calculator." A calculator. He'd used that calculator to dodge bullets and beat a trained assassin to death with a lamp, and that was him at level 1. He didn't say that out loud. He didn't have to. The glow beneath his glove said it for him. Why did Hana have it? Kale hesitated. That was new in 3 years of working in the same building. Ryuji had never seen Kale hesitate about anything. "Naomi and Hana were friends," she said. "Close friends." When Naomi realized the collective was closing in on her, she transferred the archive into someone no one would suspect. A civilian. A woman with no tattoos, no powers, no connection to Shinra. My wife. Your wife. Hana kept it for 2 years without knowing what it was. The tattoo was dormant, invisible. It only activated when she died. 2 years. Hana had been carrying a bomb inside her body for 2 years and nobody told her. Nobody protected her. Nobody even watched. Why didn't anyone guard her? Because we didn't know where the archive was. Naomi erased all records before she died. Your wife was hidden, safe, until someone inside Shinra sold her location. The word landed like a blade. Inside. There's a traitor? There was. We're handling it. Kale slid a second file across the table. Thinner. 1 photo paper clipped to the front. The face in the photo had the kind of eyes that made you check your locks twice at night. Shaved head. An open eye tattooed on his throat, not decorative, functional. His engraver ability was tied to that tattoo. It let him see memories and steal them. Marcus, codename the Harvester, the collective's primary field agent, the man who had walked into Ryuji's apartment, pressed his hand to Hana's right arm and extracted the archive while she was still alive. She probably felt it. Every memory being pulled out of her head, her childhood, her mother's voice, her wedding day. Ryuji stared at the photo. He didn't blink. He memorized every line, every shadow, every angle of that face. He burned it into a part of his brain the archive couldn't touch. Where is he? That's your first mission, Kale said. We have intel that Marcus is hitting a safe house tonight. He's after a B-rank engraver named Chen, a man with a memory storage tattoo. Small target, low security, easy prey. When? Tonight? Ryuji stood up. Chen is bait, Kale added. Marcus knows it's a trap. We know. He knows he's coming anyway because he's arrogant. That's his weakness, probably his only one. What's my role? Kale looked at him, measured him. Whatever calculation she ran behind those cold eyes, the answer must have been acceptable risk. You observe, you watch Marcus fight. You learn his patterns. You do not engage. Understood? Understood, he said. But the archive whispered beneath his skin, a single word, a correction. Liar. He wasn't going to observe. He was going to observe. He was going to look Marcus in the eye, and Marcus was going to see what he'd created. The van was silent. Rain hammered the roof. Kale drove. Ryuji sat in the back, staring at his palm through the glove. The archive was restless. It showed him flashes. Marcus standing over a body, Marcus laughing, Marcus reaching for someone's face with glowing red hands. He didn't know if these were predictions or previews, maybe both. People talk about destiny like it's romantic, like the universe has a plan and you're part of it. That's a nice idea, comforting. The reality is uglier. Destiny isn't a plan. It's a collision course. Two objects hurtling toward each other in the dark, and neither one can steer. Marcus was one object, Ryuji was the other. And tonight, the distance between them was about to become zero. The warehouse waited in the rain like a mouth that forgot how to close. Ryuji stepped out of the van. The rain hit his face, cold, real. He hadn't felt anything real since Hana died. Inside that building, the man who killed his wife was about to walk into a trap. And the trap didn't know it was about to become the hunter. Next time, Ryuji sees what a real engraver can do, what Marcus can do. And for the first time, the archive shows him not just the future, but the face of the woman who controls the collective from the shadows. 12 members. Marcus is just the knife. Someone else is holding it. The warehouse. Chen was 53 years old. He had a wife who thought he sold insurance, a daughter who thought he was boring, and a B-rank engraver tattoo on the back of his neck that let him store other people's memories like files in a cabinet. Not exactly a combat power, not exactly useless either. Shinra used him as a living hard drive. Agents would download classified intel into Chen's tattoo before dangerous missions. If the agent died, the information survived in Chen's head. Where nobody would think to look tonight, Chen was sitting on a crate in an abandoned warehouse, pretending to be alone. He wasn't. Two Shinra agents hid in the rafters above him. Kale waited in the van outside, and Ryuji crouched behind a stack of containers on the catwalk, 20 feet up, watching everything through the archive's cyan-tinted lens. Chen checked his watch again. It was the fourth time in 2 minutes. Stay hidden? Kale's voice crackled through his earpiece. Eyes only, do not engage. Ryuji didn't respond. He watched Chen fidget below. A middle-aged man with a desk job and a death wish sitting alone in the dark because Shinra told him to. Because the organization needed bait. And bait doesn't get to choose. There's a word for what Shinra did to people like Chen. They called it operational necessity. What a polished way to say, we'll use you until you break, then we'll find a replacement. 10 minutes passed, then 20. The silence became a sound of its own. Ryuji's archive pulsed. He felt it before he heard it, a spike of adrenaline that wasn't his own, a warning from a part of his brain that could see things his eyes couldn't. A metal grate shifted on the east wall, a sound so small you'd miss it under the rain on the roof. But the archive didn't miss anything. Something was in the rafters, something that moved like a spider wearing a human body. Marcus landed behind Chen like gravity was optional. No sound, no warning. He simply materialized out of the dark shaved head, dead eyes, and the open eye tattoo on his throat glowing red. Chen didn't even have time to look up. Here's what they don't tell you about predators. The dangerous ones don't announce themselves. They don't growl. They don't threaten. They arrive in silence and leave in silence. And the only evidence they were there is the absence of someone who used to be alive. Marcus pressed his palm to the back of Chen's neck. Right on the tattoo. Red light erupted. Not like fire, like infection. It spread from Marcus's hand into Chen's skin, and then the extraction began. Chen went rigid. His eyes rolled back. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Ryuji's archive screamed, not a sound, a sensation, like someone was dragging a blade down the inside of his skull. It was showing him what was happening inside Chen's mind, memories being ripped out, one by one, like pages torn from a book. Chen's childhood gone. The taste of his mother's cooking, gone. His daughter's first steps, gone. His wedding day, gone. 30 years of marriage condensed into light, pulled through his skin, and consumed by a man who collected souls the way other people collected stamps. Something broke inside Ryuji. Not a bone, not a thought, something older. Something that lives in the space between who you are and who you're about to become? Do not engage, Kale's voice repeated in his ear. Calm, professional, a chess player talking about a pawn. But Ryuji wasn't a chess player. He was the guy who just watched a man get his life erased in real time. And the archive, the thing living under his skin, was flooding him with one overwhelming impulse. Stop it, now. He jumped 20 feet, landed hard enough to crack the concrete. His glove split on impact. Cyan light poured from his hand like something that had been waiting to escape. The two Shinra agents in the rafters froze. This wasn't the plan. This wasn't even close to the plan. Marcus turned. His face was blank, the kind of blank that takes practice, the kind that comes from killing so many people they stop registering as people at all. Then he saw Ryuji's hand, and something changed behind those dead eyes. New blood? Marcus said. His voice was soft, almost warm, like a teacher greeting a student. And you brought my favorite thing? He dropped Chen like a bag of laundry. Chen crumpled alive, technically, but whatever made him him was gone. He'd wake up tomorrow not knowing his own name, not knowing he had a wife, a daughter, a life. That was the thing Marcus took, not lives worse. He took the reasons to live. The archive, Marcus said, studying Ryuji's glowing hand. In a vessel that can fight. How interesting. You killed my wife, Ryuji said. Marcus tilted his head like a dog hearing a frequency most people can't. Your wife? Oh, the carrier. He smiled. I remember her, she cried, said your name, over and over. Ryuji, Ryuji, Ryuji. He said it like he was savoring it. It was almost poetic. There are things you can say to a man that will get you punched. There are things you can say that will get you killed. And then there are things you can say that will make a man burn the world down to get to you. Marcus had just said all three. The archive screamed. It showed Ryuji the next 2 seconds. Marcus would faint left. The real attack would come from the right. His target wasn't Ryuji's body. It was his face, his temple. Where the archive's signals were strongest, Marcus lunged. He was fast, easily the fastest thing Ryuji had ever seen a human body do. But fast doesn't matter when your opponent already knows where you're going. Ryuji stepped left. Marcus's red palm grabbed empty air. His eyes widened, a crack in the mask, just for a moment. Just long enough to be satisfying. Oh? Marcus smiled wider. The archive can fight. Interesting. Ryuji didn't wait. The archive showed him the opening 3 inches below Marcus's left ear where the jaw met the skull. The weakest point, the one Marcus never guarded because nobody had ever gotten close enough to exploit it until now. The punch connected. But it wasn't just a punch, for a fraction of a second. So fast Ryuji almost missed it. His knuckles had hardened. A thin edge of cyan light, sharp as glass, had formed over his fist on impact. Like the archive had armored him. Just for an instant, just enough. Marcus's head snapped sideways. Blood sprayed from his lip, too much blood for a bare-knuckle punch. He stumbled back, hit a shipping container, and touched his jaw. His fingers came away red. Something had cut him from the inside of the punch. First blood, and something else. A new weapon Ryuji didn't know he had. Marcus studied the blood on his fingers, then looked at Ryuji's fist. The cyan flicker was already gone. Interesting, he whispered, then louder grinning, you're going to be fun. Then Marcus's palm lit up, full power. The red glow wasn't subtle anymore. It was a furnace. He reached for Ryuji's face. And the archive showed Ryuji exactly what would happen if that hand touched him. Not death, worse, he would lose Hana. Every memory, her voice, her laugh, the way she wrinkled her nose when she was thinking. The warmth of her hand in his. All of it. Harvested. Consumed. Turned into fuel for the thing glowing red in Marcus's palm. Ryuji froze. For one terrible second, he couldn't move, and 1 second was all Marcus needed. The gunshot cracked through the warehouse like the word of God. Marcus's hand exploded. Blood and red light sprayed across the floor. He screamed, the first honest sound he'd made all night. Not the calm predator anymore. Just a man with a ruined hand and the sudden, shocking realization that he could bleed. Kale stood on the catwalk. Smoke rose from her pistol. I told you not to engage, she said. Marcus clutched his hand. Blood poured through his fingers, but he was smiling, still smiling. We'll meet again, Vessel, he said, backing toward the shadows. Next time. Bring a bigger gun, and say goodbye to your memories. I'll be taking them. He climbed the wall, one-handed, like it was nothing, disappeared through a vent shaft and into the night. The other Shinra agents gave chase. But Marcus was already gone. The harvester had escaped, wounded, humiliated, but alive. Kale walked up to Ryuji with the kind of controlled fury that's worse than shouting. Her face was stone, but her eyes were fire. You could have died. You could have lost the archive. Looked at Chen on the floor, eyes open, empty. The man would wake up tomorrow as a stranger in his own life. I understand what I didn't do, Ryuji said. I didn't sit there and watch. Marcus knows you have the archive now. He felt your power. He saw your face. The collective will come for you with everything they have. Good. Kale stared at him. Let them come, Ryuji said. I'll be here. Chen was carried out on a stretcher, eyes open, seeing nothing. He'd spend the rest of his life in a Shinra medical facility being read stories about a family he wouldn't recognize. His daughter would visit, he wouldn't know who she was. That's what Marcus did. That's what the collective did. They didn't kill you, they unmade you. They left your body walking around while everything inside it screamed in a language nobody could hear. Ryuji watched them load Chen into the ambulance. He made a decision, quietly, in a place deeper than thought. Marcus was going to die for this. Not someday, not eventually, soon. The archive pulsed, a new vision, not Marcus. Someone else, a woman, dark hair, a scar on her cheek, red eyes that glowed like dying embers. She was standing in a room full of monitors, and she was watching him, not in the future right now. The collective had more than Marcus. They had a leader, and she had just gotten very, very interested in the man who punched her best killer in the jaw and lived. Her name was Yuna. Ryuji didn't know that yet. He would. Next time Marcus heals, but he doesn't forget. The collective sends a message. We know where you sleep. And Ryuji discovers that 2 seconds of the future isn't just a power. It's a curse. Because sometimes, the future it shows you is one you can't stop. 2 seconds. Day 4 at Shinra. Ryuji had already broken 11 combat droids, 2 training dummies, and 1 instructor's nose. The nose was an accident. The droids were not. The archive was growing. Each day it reached a little further from his palm to his fingers, from his fingers to his wrist, like ivy climbing a wall. Beautiful if you didn't know it was slowly eating the wall from the inside. 3 droids circled him. Military-grade, reinforced titanium chassis, programmed with 600 combat scenarios drawn from real S-rank engraver fights. They were designed to simulate the worst things a human could do to another human, and then do it faster. Ryuji watched them move, or rather, the archive watched, and it showed him everything. 2 seconds, that's what the archive gave him. 2 seconds of the future playing in his mind like a film reel made of certainty. 2 seconds doesn't sound like much. Let me put it differently. A bullet travels 2,000 feet per second. A trained fighter can throw a punch in 400 milliseconds. A human blink takes 300. In 2 seconds, a fight starts and ends 3 times over. Ryuji didn't just have 2 seconds of warning. He had 2 seconds of omniscience. And omniscience, it turns out, makes you very hard to hit. He moved, sidestep, grab, throw. The motions were clean, not trained, downloaded. The archive wasn't just showing him the future. It was teaching his body how to respond to it. Muscle memory without the muscles. Fight experience without the fights. Droid 3 flew into Droid 1. They crashed in a tangle of sparks and fractured joints. Droid 2 recovered, swept again. Ryuji was already airborne, knee driving down into its skull plate. The droid's head caved inward. It dropped. 10 seconds. 3 droids. Done. Kale watched from behind the glass. She'd been holding the same cup of coffee for 40 minutes. It was cold. She hadn't noticed. She was too busy watching a man who 7 days ago had been mopping floors. That was the thing about the archive. Didn't just give you power. It gave you potential crystallized into certainty. In a week, Ryuji had gone from a D-rank janitor to something that made B-rank engravers uncomfortable. In a month, she didn't want to think about that. In a year, nobody wanted to think about that. The archive took something that night. It always took something while Ryuji slept, if you could call the broken twitching thing he did sleep. The archive replayed memories, not his combat training, not the droids, it replayed Hana. This time it was the kitchen. Tuesday night, she was making miso soup. He came home late, coat soaked, boots dripping on the floor she'd just mopped. She complained. He apologized. She pretended to be angry. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. Your hands are freezing, she said. That's why I'm warming them on you. She laughed, pushed him away with the wooden spoon. But she was smiling. She was always smiling. But this time, the memory was different, softer, like looking through frosted glass. Her laugh, the specific sound of it, the way it started in her chest before reaching her mouth, was fading. Not gone, not yet, but fading. The way a photograph fades in sunlight, slowly, invisibly, until one day you look at it and realize the person in it could be anyone. The archive was consuming him, one memory at a time. It took the happiest ones first, because those burned the brightest, and the archive was always hungry. Ryuji woke up gasping, reached for the memory. Grabbed it, expelled it tight. Miso soup. Tuesday night. Wooden spoon. She was smiling. He repeated it until it stuck. He didn't know how many more times he could do that before the glue stopped holding. Morning. Briefing room. Kale sat across from him. If she noticed the dark circles under his eyes, she didn't mention it. Sympathy wasn't in her job description. The archive's integration is accelerating, she said, reading from a tablet. Your precognition window has expanded. Last week it was 1.8 seconds, now it's 2.3. It feels longer, Ryuji said. It will keep growing, but so will the cost. She set the tablet down. How much of her do you remember? The question landed like a slap. All of it, he said. She studied him, then nodded. She knew he was lying. He knew she knew. Neither acknowledged it. That's how trust works between broken people. You agree to believe each other's lies. Then the archive did something it had never done before. Uninvited. Unprovoked. Like a dog bringing a dead bird to its owner's doorstep, it showed him a name. U-N-A. The letters formed in his mind like they were being carved into stone, and with the name came a face, dark hair, a scar on her left cheek, eyes that glowed the color of fresh blood. Yuna, Ryuji said out loud. Kale stopped mid-sip, set her coffee down. Slowly, what did you just say? The collective's leader. Her name is Yuna. There it was. The crack. The thing Ryuji had been waiting to see in Kale's face since day one. Not anger, not frustration, surprise. Real, unfiltered. I didn't see that coming. Surprise. Nobody knows her name, Kale said. Not our intelligence division, not our field agents. We've been hunting the collective for 6 years and we don't even have a confirmed photo of their leader. How did you... The archive showed me it's not just combat prediction anymore, it's connecting to something, a network. I'm seeing things that haven't happened yet, things that might never happen, but they're real. Kale paced. 4 steps left, 4 steps right. An old combat habit, keep moving, keep your body engaged while your mind works. She stopped. If the archive is giving you intelligence-level data, we can use that, but you need to control it. If you see too far ahead, you'll lose yourself in the visions. Naomi. She caught herself. Naomi made that mistake. She pushed too hard, saw too far. By the end, she couldn't tell the difference between a vision and reality. What happened to her? Kale's jaw tightened. She died, and the archive moved on to its next vessel. It always does. She said it like a fact, but underneath the fact, Ryuji heard something else. Something personal, something that hurt. He filed it away, right next to Yuna's name. New mission, Kale said. Business voice restored. We found Marcus. He's set up in an abandoned subway station in the industrial district. Fire sealed it 17 years ago? 17 dead? The city buried it and moved on? Marcus lives there? Marcus is using it as a kill room. He's luring low-rank engravers in and harvesting them. 3 confirmed victims this month alone. Ryuji opened the file. Marcus's photo stared back at him. The hand Kale had shot through was fully healed. No scar, no damage. The eye tattoo on his throat glowed red even in the photograph, and he was smiling, directly at the camera. He knew he was being watched, and he didn't care. He wants us to come, Ryuji said. He wants you to come. The archive is the biggest prize the collective has ever hunted. Marcus is the bait now. Then we're both bait. Kale handed him the gear, vest, earpiece. Extra magazines for the gun she hadn't given him yet? You're not just observing this time, she said. You're the point. Marcus comes for you. Our agents close the net. We trap him. And then? Kale didn't answer immediately. Her hand rested on his shoulder. Half a second, maybe less. Short enough to be professional, long enough to be something else. And then we finish it, she said. 1 collector down, 11 to go. She pulled her hand back, walked to the door, stopped. Ryuji, that list of 12 names, Marcus is number 7. He's the muscle, the errand boy. If the 7th-ranked member can dodge bullets and rip memories out of a living skull, imagine what number 1 can do. She left. Ryuji sat alone, looked at Marcus's smiling face one more time, then closed the file. Number 7. Marcus was number 7 out of 12. The man who killed Hana, who moved like a spider, who could erase your entire identity with one touch, was 7th. In any other story, that would be terrifying, an impossible mountain. But Ryuji wasn't climbing a mountain, he was burning one. And he had just learned that the fire inside him was growing hotter by the day, 2 seconds of the future. Today it was 2, tomorrow it might be 3, next week 5, next month 10, and one day, maybe one day soon, he'd be able to see far enough ahead to watch Marcus die before Marcus even knew the fight had started. That day was coming, and Ryuji was done waiting for it. Next time Ryuji descends into the subway station, Marcus is waiting, but so is someone else. Someone who controls the shadows. Someone whose name Ryuji just learned. The harvester set a trap. He just doesn't know he's not the only predator in the dark.